I know, I'm like really late into reviewing this globally acclaimed car, but let me tell you, it took me an entire years of wait before I finally got my hands on this. But all is well now because I now have the keys to the Hyundai Ioniq 5. Psst, fun fact, did you know this car is actually built on Kia and Hyundai's, their sister companies by the way, their shared eGMP modular platform. So the underpinnings of this car, the Ioniq 5 and Kia's EV6, are actually the same. Yet they're totally different cars, right? Anyway, this is the Hyundai Ioniq 5 standard range rear wheel drive, and it's got a 58 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery mated to a 125 kilowatt rear motor that pushes the car with 350 newton meters of torque, and it's got an estimated range WLTP of about 375 kilometers give or take. But this car has a top speed of 180 kilometers an hour and can do 0 to 100 in 8.5 seconds. Damn, I don't think you'll be doing those last two benchmarks in a family car, would you? But that's not all. This car actually comes with V2L that can give a max output of 3.6 kilowatts via plugging it in the back. It's got a ground clearance of 160 mm, and it's got a large boot space of 537 liters, which can be expanded even more by folding the rear seats in that traditional 60:40 ratio to a maximum capacity of 1,587 liters. And that's not even the best bit. It's actually got a 57 liter frunk up at the front too. But what's actually outrageous about this car, thanks to that modular eGMP platform I was talking about, is that there is an entire 3 meters between this front wheel and that last wheel. Think of what that does to all the space inside, right? And anyway, as for charging on this car, your charger port is way at the back here. It is a one touch, and obviously it's a CCS type 2 charging, AC and DC right there. And you can use a 2 kilowatt AC granny charger which the car comes with, but come on, 58 kilowatt hour battery at the rate of 2 kilowatts means an astronomical 29 hours for 0 to 100. But you can upgrade yourself to a 7 kilowatt AC charger. They'll drop it down to about a 7-8 hour overnight charge, and luckily this car does accept up to 11 kilowatts of fast AC charging if you want to bump that time down even more. And this car is built on the state-of-the-art 800 volt architecture system, which means it can actually gobble up 175 kilowatts of DC fast charging, which the company claims in a perfect scenario can actually do 20 to 80% in 18 minutes. Anyway, I'm gonna close the charger flap now, and I know that was like a lot of numbers. And I'm also going to preface this right now by saying that I might be fanboying during this review, unlike my others, because I've actually been admiring this car since it first debuted back in 2021, I think, as well as all the updated, iterated versions ever since, including the new N-Line that just came out. So without further ado, let me hop into the driver's seat now and share what this car is all about on the way to Dapcha. Low and comfortable is the name of the game here. It's got fantastic AC and a superb sound system with good treble and really nice thumpy bass. And the great thing about it is that even if it's such a low car, you can see the bonnet right ahead in front, and with your parking cameras all around, you have a good sense of the front and the back and the sides. And speaking of which, drive modes, there are 4 drive modes. that can be changed via this button here on the steering wheel. An eco, a normal, a sport, and a long press takes it to snow mode, which is supposedly for better traction and easier throttle play. And let me tell you, power delivery on all of them is super smooth and refined, really quick too. Like there's definitely a kick. And shout out to Hyundai because they've actually given aluminum accelerator and brake pedals. As for brakes, there are 4 disc brakes on this car, of which the 2 in front are ventilated, and they're more than adequate for this car. This car is an EV after all, so you also get regenerative braking, and that can be changed by the paddle shifters behind the steering wheel here and here. And the great thing about this is that there are actually 4 modes of regeneration available, from 0 all the way to 3, 0 being just coasting. And then you have 1 more left shift, which will take it into I-pedal mode, which means you actually can do 1 pedal driving just like a Nissan Leaf. I'm leaving my foot and the car actually comes to a dead stop. All right. And even the 3rd regeneration heaviest mode isn't too much on this car, so I'm just leaving it in 2 for my preferences, I guess. Find a hilly, twisty road, and suddenly these paddle shifters make all the difference when it comes to driving experience. But the highlight of this car has to be the suspension. Ride quality is surprisingly fantastic and plush. It's got McPherson strut suspension at the front and multi-link at the back. Oh, you also have like very convenient blind spot projections each time you hit your side lights on one side. Really smart, Hyundai. And again, back at the suspension, there's like an almost waft when it's on pitched roads, very smooth and elegant. And when it comes to bumpier off-road sections, it still does a good job of gliding through it. But please keep in mind, the curb weight of this is a proper 1,830 kilograms, nearly a 2-ton car, which means it's fairly planted and has a proper heft when it comes to driving. And even at higher speeds, when I tested this car out, there's really not much body roll, as the center of gravity on this is just that low. But it's not all rainbows and sunshine. Ground clearance has constantly been on my mind, and I have experienced this car scraping some bits here and there, especially on those tight turns with bumps. Like, don't get me wrong, 160 mm is definitely a decent number. And actually, Indian cars like Maruti 800, Alto, Wagoner, even Swift all have clearances between 160 to 165 mm. But the thing is, their wheelbase, the distance between the front wheel and the back wheel, is 2,300 to maybe 2,600 mm on the bigger, maybe Swift Desires. But here, it's a proper 3,000 millimeters, 3 meters between the front and back that I mentioned. And oh boy, that can suddenly get quite nerve-wracking. And the other thing is that Hyundai has actually made some cutouts on the rear spoiler, saying that at speed it channels in air and just pushes away water droplets so that your rear windshield remains clean. But what about dust and grime? Did they forget that? There's no rear window wiper here. So good luck when you're on our muddy, dirty highways or anywhere a bit not pitched, backing up, because your rear camera and your rear windshields are both gonna be compromising your visibility. And while I'm at it, let me also touch upon the duality of screen and buttons on this car. Like, thank you so much, Hyundai. There's still a bit of dexterity in this car when it comes to like navigating the screen, but also navigating your HVAC via these controls down here. I'm so done with like just having one big central glossy screen to handle everything from seat heating to like your mirror controls, alignments, seat movements, whatever. Like, oh my god, this is such a blessing, especially when you're like multitasking. All right, just pausing my drive for a quick bit to talk about the car in one go. They call this an SUV, CUV, depending on the market, but to me it looks like more of a massive hatchback crossover to me that's made to look like an SUV instead. And I am absolutely in love with this modern approach to retro elements with a splash of sporty, I guess. I think Hyundai were just purely bold and innovative in deciding this. And let me tell you, it's got tangent lines and pixels everywhere, yet somehow manages to look seamless and smooth. It's honestly such a charming change to everything else. So at the front, you have this seamless clamshell hood that I've kept open. It's got hydraulic arms to open the frunk at the front. And your hydraulic fluids are on the left-hand side here. Your AC coolant, your battery coolant, brake fluids. This is your washing water wiper fluids, your fuse box, and a proper respectable 57 liters of frunk space at the front. All right. Hyundai big badging at the front, like it's the size of my palm. And you have your front sensors all integrated here and right behind the mirrors there. And you've got rain sensing wipers at the bottom here are actually your active AC. Oh, did you catch that? This is an active air intake for AC intake and depending on your aerodynamic speeds. And this car has a full LED treatment. I just love these pixel looking lights. It's the signature light for the Ioniq, and let me tell you right now, you're gonna see this everywhere. Coming to the side, you have Michelin tires. It's called Michelin Total Performance tires, but basically in a nutshell, the tire profile is 235/55 R19s. If you want to know what those numbers mean, check out my Citroen EC3 review. I'll have a link up above. And coming up above, again, these plastic cladding around the car. Your electronically foldable and adjustable mirrors, more pixels here in the mirrors for your side lights. And then you have greenish tinted front and back windows with flush door handles. Quite revolutionary at its time of launch. And you have a massive panoramic sunroof that Hyundai call a vision roof, but you also get this with a solar roof in some markets. And at the back you have a shark fin antenna. All right, let me step back a bit and show you. It's actually a Z-shaped contour for this car. Looks really abstract and cool. And then obviously a very chunky looking C-pillar at the back. Your charging flap here with a tap closes too. And then coming to the back, more pixel lights here if you look at it. Really love this. More pixels here too. Top mounted brake light with spoilers. And unfortunately no rear wiper. A lot of rectangular cutouts down here with proximity sensors and reflectors. You've probably seen Chinese EVs come with tons of features stuffed to the brim. And let me tell you, this Korean car is not that far behind. Like, check it out. You're cocooned in this like relaxed and cozy and extremely comfortable environment here. It's very clean and uncluttered and not too minimal, unlike the latest car designs. Hyundai has made a conscious effort to use eco-friendly material on all the interior. Oh, and there's a fridge magnet here. As for the driver's seat, coming from the door, you have this soft touch material here with all your controls right up front, your mirrors, the folding, your lock, unlock, one touch window on the driver's side and at the other side too. Quite cool, but not at the back. And that's fine, I guess. You have pixel stitching right here too. The seats are electronically adjustable. Lumbar support, height of the seat, reach of the seat, everything. And it's the same on the passenger side as well, electronically adjustable, everything. The seats at the front are also heated and cooled, by the way. Like, you can turn them on and off. Coming to the center console though, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 ... which is no spoiler in 2024. It's H in Morse code for Hyundai. As for the steering configuration, you have your media controls here with a programmable favorite button, and then your trip computer and your other car buttons on this side, and then a very accessible drive mode button that'll let you change between the drive modes. Quite cool. The steering wheel can be adjusted for both reach and rake. And what I find really fun about this car though is that on the left hand side you have your wiper controls, and on your right hand side you have your indicator that'll turn on the blind spots, and then your headlight controls, this twisting knob here, but also your gear lever knob. Foot on the brake, front for drive, back for reverse, and half a twist for neutral. And then you push it for tap. Also on the side are your parking brake, your auto hold, your headlight adjustment, traction control, and your height for your boot. Coming back to the driver's infotainment screens, they're both 12.25-inch screens for your driver's information and your center console, and they're both super high res. This one's not touch, but this one definitely is. You do have wired Apple CarPlay that can be accessed via that USB cable. I'll have another video on all of this, so stay tuned for that. As for this entire center console, it's dual zone climate, so you can set touch haptic feedback here on each side. You can actually turn this side off if you don't need it. Your fan speed buttons are in the middle, air circulation, your defrosting, and then you have your parking sensors, your camera quick access button, and then you have your tuning for radio, your setup for your car's settings, another favorite button that can be programmed here, your quick media control buttons here. This is connected to my phone's Bluetooth right now, a home button, and then a power button, as well as a volume rocker. The thing about this car though is that it's got a wireless charger all the way down there, so it's a bit out of reach and it's charging now, but you have tons of charging outlets here and there in the car. Like I showed you, one at front, and then a 180 watt 12 volt socket here in case you have any high powered things. You have a big large cubby there, tons of space here, which you can, let me show it to you. If I move this up above, actually move from the driver's seat, and now I'm on the passenger side. Again, massive storage bin here. I have just kept some wires and chargers here, but you could fit an entire purse down here. And there's a smaller storage compartment down here underneath the armrest if you would like to utilize that. But I think what's most fun about this though is if you look here, this isn't a glove box but a glove drawer, and it's a very big one. Like, what? Why is the owner's manual this big? Cool. There's a bit of a hard plastic usage here, but different textures, and it looks really premium, just the way it wraps around you. And up on top you have a switch in the middle for your, oops, I have my mount there, your sunroof. These move really fast. And then you have touch capacitive buttons for your lights on each side, or this just to like light up everything, or this according to your door. And the rear seats is really built with family in mind. this is where that 3-meter wheelbase really comes into highlight. Like, it's really like you're seated in business class back here. I'm not joking. And this vision roof just binds all the space in here together. Like, you have really long sofa like base cushions here. And the thing is, I've noticed you sit a bit higher up than the driver and passenger seat in front. Like, if you look at that, it's got a really flat and expansive sort of floor down here. And there's like copious amounts of room everywhere. Like knee room, footwell room, shoulder room, head room. You can even fit the biggest and bulkiest of baby seats because there are 2 isofix points given on each side. As for practicality, I think the back seat has it all, starting with 2 USB-A outlets, AC vents that you can open and close on each of the B pillars in the middle. Then you have a armrest with 2 cup holders, big bottle holders down here. This trip out of the valley was just magnificent. This car's been around for like a couple of years now, so I can't really call it state of the art anymore. But there's also been nothing like it ever since it was released. It's got many features that really went to be copied by tons of its competitors because they were just so functional. V2L flush door handles, aero wheel caps, blind spot projections like this right here. You have a drawer for your glove box up in front, like really cool. Also, these front seats in international markets have recliner chairs, which I think are staples of most EV cars these days while you wait for your charge. And then you begin to feel how highly innovative Hyundai was already back in 2021. Like, you have to remember, it was a time when we were all locked in avoiding all physical forms of contact because of the COVID pandemic. And yet, somehow, even after a couple of years, it doesn't at all feel outdated for today's breakneck pace of facelifts. That was a tongue twister for sure. Did not intend that. Chinese cars, as you've seen my reviews, have features galore. It's like they have some checklist that they have to hit with all the features, and this car honestly has the same, but it's a lot more well thought of and a lot more refined. Like, foot down, that EV torque is instant, but it's so smooth in delivery. Like, even when I put it in sports mode, foot down, and it's so like smooth. Like, it doesn't like hit you in the face or anything. The brakes too, regenerative too. And it's like, I think that whole Apple versus Android debate, while one is known to like quickly roll out raw, fresh features as they are, the other one takes a lot more time, in fact a whole couple of years down the road, for the same damn features. So if you've seen my other reviews again, you can probably get the idea that this car is probably a trendsetter for everything that you get today. And even today, where I drove it all the way out of the capital with our bad bumpy roads and potholes and terrible, terrible highways, all the way to Dapcha, this historic, really nice town about 60 kilometers out, just stuck in a certain era. It was a long and arduous drive, but ground clearance aside, obviously ground clearance, it's been on my mind, you could tell that. As long as you're careful, the car doesn't bottom out, and it just made this entire journey up to Dapcha effortless and easy. I probably couldn't have asked for more from a car. Anyway, let me know what you think about this car and this review. Drop a comment down below, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.